afternoon, good evening, good night. This is Kathy B sitting in for Antisocial today because today we have one of our special, super smart guests who is better than just talking about funny things and comedians, if there is such a thing. Uh, we have Dr. Kent McGaughy, who we've had before, and many of you have asked to have him back. So we have asked him to come, and he has graciously accepted. And Dr. Kent, tell us a little bit about your background for those who missed out last time, where you are from and where you teach.
Okay. Well, I'm from Houston, Texas. I've been teaching at 20 Houston Community College for almost 28 years now, and I specialize in the American Revolutionary era and the Constitution of the United States. And I've published one book on Richard Henry Lee of Virginia and his role in the American Revolution. And I'm currently working on another book manuscript involving George Washington and Benjamin Franklin.
Excellent. Do you already have a publisher for it?
No,
Oh,
no,
we're working
but
it. Good
I'm
juju.
getting
Good
them.
juju.
Yeah, yeah. So, so that's where my intellectual leanings are lying, and this I've been telling my students. This was the first time I've ever actually told my students I'm frightened for the future.
Now, this
Um,
is interesting. You, as an author, have a history of your family also having authors, correct?
yes,
So
yes.
tell me a little bit about your dad's book,
Okay, well, it's actually my grandfather's book.
grandfather's book. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, he published this book in 1937 while he was a professor of elementary education at Columbia University.
Wow.
Teachers College. And he titled his book An Evaluation of the Elementary School with a Forecast of Its Future.
Mhm.
And so when he gets to the last part of the book where he talks about the forecast of the elementary school's future in the United States, he says that he wants to kind of lay out his vision for the future of the country, to
Right.
kind of like, you know,
What?
assess where we're going to be as a country. And at one point, he talks about um, the likelihood of fascism developing in this country or taking hold in this country. And it's a short passage. Let me just quickly read it because it's very, very
And also point
interesting.
out the fact that the year this book was written was 1937.
Yes. So
Yeah.
this is when Hitler was in power
Mhm.
and Mussolini they were both in power, but this is still before World War II began.
Wow.
So but what he wrote about fascism, he said, fascism in this country is a distinct possibility, but the probability of its adoption in our society within the next 25 or 50 years is remote. So 25 years from 1937 would be 1962,
Hmm.
50 years, 1987.
Hmm.
And this is what has always struck me. Traditionally, fascism has been the last resort of a powerful capitalistic group for its own protection.
Interesting.
And so what that really how that um what that helped me put in perspective is that I think we've made a mistake by labeling fascism as an ideology.
Interesting.
Because when we label it an ideology, we elevate it. We put it alongside capitalism,
Right. Like
democracy,
inequality. Yeah.
fascism,
Right.
okay? And when you think of it, as my grandfather noted, that it's a tactic. It is something that is used by a powerful capitalistic group for its own protection.
Right.
It's a
Oligarchy.
manipulation.
Yeah.
It's not real. It's a manipulation. It's a strategy. And it's an old strategy. Divide and conquer.
Yeah. And it's been going
And
on for as many masterly, huge, societies there have been, from
yeah.
Rome to Greece to wherever.
And so it's what fascism represents is when those who are in power are taking a sledgehammer to the society as a whole
Hmm.
and trying to shatter us into fragments that they can more easily manipulate and
Right.
turn against each other. Um, it's the schoolyard bully getting a badge.
Mm.
and having the force of law. And
Lowering flags for somebody who made a living out of terrorizing people verbally.
absolutely. I mean, I've it frustrates me when they talk about fascists in this country um, and free speech. Um,
Right.
all what the First Amendment does is it protects you from um, being prosecuted by the government for what you say.
Mhm.
It does not mean
That you
that
get.
universities should give a microphone to somebody who does nothing but spew unfounded hatred.
Right. And when they do, they should be accountable for the actions that are taken onto them, as well as the actions that they have created around them.
Yes, I can't imagine a university inviting a flat earther
Right.
to come to the campus and talk about how the earth is really flat.
Right. Let's talk
Um,
about the aliens. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the idea then is that if he has a platform, let his platform be on InfoWars. Let
Right.
his platform be on Fox News.
They have
Um,
demographics for a reason.
yes. But we shouldn't allow these people to come to campus because all they do is, again, stoke division, stoke violence, and all of these kinds of things. And um,
And then have a whole group of, a whole large vocal, sometimes I always equate loud with stupid, and I know that's not always true, but very loud,
yeah,
possibly stupid group of people who equate, their ability to speak. I said ability. Um, hello, Freud. Uh, is more important than somebody else's ability to be heard, and I think that is a huge failure in what's going on with the oh, they're just censoring us. They're just doing that. First of all, there's no them and us. Everybody gets the same chance to talk.
yes.
And
And
when there's a them and us, that's where the problems begin.
right. And whenever um like I said, when we think about fascism in the context of my grandfather's comment, um, again, the schoolyard bully has taken over.
Hmm.
Um, Gavin Newsom has done this to an extent, but just like the way you handle a bully, not violently, that's
Right,
never acceptable. But again, you stand up to the bully, you
right.
confront, but in a way that is nonviolent,
Yeah, I
like
said to one of
like
my
he's
reporter
done.
friends, point left at this guy 12 years ago, point left at this guy, and he will never be president. And she looked at me and said, I can't do that. My editor won't let me.
Yeah, yeah. And if you just we like I said, we add to we give them legitimacy when they don't warrant it.
Yeah.
Um, and again, Gavin Newsom mocking Trump through his social media posts is the way you handle it. It
And
got
it's so dead on that the fact that they don't get the group at Fox and the state, media style reporters like Alex Jones or whomever, they
yeah,
didn't get that was what was actually, we're just mirroring it back and
yeah,
showing you how silly it is.
right. And so again, I think that if we can actually just understand that it is just this kind of manipulation,
Hmm.
that it's just a way to turn us against each other.
Right. And it's
Um,
been happening I mentioned this last time we spoke. Um, I think when Newt Gingrich started this whole campaign of them and us in the Congress, it really started just becoming blatant. I mean, it might have been going on behind the curtains and whatever for ages, but it was so blatant when he started doing the them and us routine on
mhm,
every single chance he ever had in front of a reporter.
yeah,
It just seemed to just inspire more of that. I mean, like Howard Stern radio does not have to be a way of life for everybody.
right, right. And I just it, again, I reiterate this with my students as often as I can that when you go through the whole of human history, where you have often found the greatest achievements is when enough of us have reached the frame of mind where we could look upon someone who is different than ourselves,
Mhm.
recognize the difference, respect the difference, and then focus on our similarity.
Right.
And that is where fascism makes that impossible.
And they take the human
It
out of the
makes us
humanity. Yeah.
and it makes us it can causes us just to be consumed by the differences
Right.
and get too many of us to the point where we simply refuse to acknowledge that there are any similarities, which is just patently false. And again, I I always argue that there's just one ideology out there, that's capitalism.
Hmm.
But now what we've had throughout history is what we would call authoritarian capitalism.
Right.
And we have what's trying to emerge and what has been trying to emerge is democratic capitalism.
Right. Which is
And
so
so,
it's kind of broken just in the on the out front. But yeah.
yeah. And to me, the basic difference between the two is that authoritarian capitalism, the benefits of capitalism go to the top.
Mhm.
Democratic capitalism, the benefits of capitalism go to the majority of the population.
Right.
And that's the basic difference. And um,
And you hear Robert Reich
that's
and
where the
people,
conflict is that
yeah.
we're undergoing as a nation is
But Bernie Sanders and Robert Reich have both been screaming very similar points for the last 30, 40 years.
yes,
Exactly that. It's like if you
yes,
don't pay attention to those signs that things are heading to that direction only, then this direction gets nothing, you know?
right. And uh, 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 what frustrates me about Bernie Sanders is we've also got to acknowledge that the um, a big part of the culprit in our problems is the two-party system, the restraint that the two-party system has placed on our democracy.
Right.
Um, it's an old, I mean, if you are tolerating the two-party system, you are tolerating the oligarchy
Right.
because I had a conversation recently with somebody who was talking about um, undoing what Trump has done. And I expressed my concern that the
You just
oligarchs
create a
on the
bigger them and us.
right, the
Yeah.
oligarchs on the are on the that support the Democrats,
Hmm.
they would have never done what Trump has done. But I worry now that they're not committed to undoing it now that
Not
it
at
has
all.
been done.
Their benefits are too great from
And
what's.
so when you have the leadership of the Democratic Party more beholden to this donor class,
Mhm.
then to what extent can we rely on the Democratic Party to really undo what needs to be undone?
When Citizens United passed, do you think that was the breakdown as far as our democracy? Does that was that the beginning of the end, or do you think it was earlier than that?
I think it was earlier than that, but I
Mhm.
think that was Citizens United was a major stake through the heart of our democracy. And what frustrates me about the idea that money can be equated to speech,
Yeah,
um, that just means that if you're wealthier, you have more freedom than people who aren't. And
and
that's,
people have been treating each other like that for as long as people have been alive.
yes,
Sadly,
yes.
uh, yeah,
And, you know, of course, a wealthy person has the freedom to buy a Maserati, and
right.
I don't. A wealthy person has the freedom to fly a private jet to Paris for dinner tonight. I don't. And that's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
But to say that that person, because they're wealthier, has more political freedom, more political power,
Can stay out of
that's
jail
a
for
problem.
free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a problem.
yeah.
And that's what equating money to speech, political speech, allows. And it just it can't be sustained. It cannot be sustained.
When
Um,
gerrymandering became a thing, that was monstrous in itself.
yeah.
Um, I think I mentioned this before. I was born the same day as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed. The exact moment it was
Oh
signed
wow.
into law, that was when I popped out. Said, "Hi world, look at me! I'm ready to fight this fight." Um, and I've been doing it ever since. I think. Uh, but I mean, I don't have the experience of being a Black American. I don't have the experience of being, I do have the experience of being a homeless American as a veteran. Um, but I see when I was in certain situations, how I was treated was so much different than somebody who I grew up with. Like one of my friends is a TV star, she gets treated this way. I'm in a wheelchair, I get treated this way.
Yeah.
Um, where is the balance? Where do we, given this big pile of shit that we're rolling in right now, and we are definitely rolling in it because a lot of people don't even realize how bad it is. They're just
Hmm.
kind of blindly going through the motions. They won't notice it until they start seeing that they don't have health care anymore. They don't have a reasonable grocery bill anymore. They can't afford heat, um, which is starting to happen as of January 1st. There's going to be a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Um, this is as far as the Constitution goes. A lot of people are frustrated with Congress itself. Is that where we should be pointing our brain arrows?
Again, the problem is it's the fact that the political party that controls the majority in Congress right now
Mhm.
is more concerned about keeping the president happy and satisfied, and they're not doing their job. They're not fulfilling their constitutional obligation to check the power of the executive.
Yeah, and they're
Um,
letting it walk away. They're just like,
right.
okay, go ahead. Yeah, we
And
don't need to
so
do tariffs. Go ahead.
and so you're what they're doing is they're putting the interests of their political party ahead of their country.
Hmm.
And so the framers of the Constitution, when they wrote the Constitution, the two-party system did not exist.
Right.
And when you look at how they structured elements of the government under the Constitution, there's clear evidence that they never imagined that a two-party system would emerge.
Right. Because everywhere
Um,
else in the world, it hasn't been that.
right. And so then um, when in by the time George Washington finished his presidency, the two-party system was beginning to emerge.
Hmm.
And he said that the division of the republic into two major parties will shake the government to its foundation. And that's what we're witnessing right now
Yeah.
is and the fact that we have as far as our options and the solution that is being presented, we can choose Republican or Democrat. And
Bang,
neither
banging heads on
one
wall. Yeah.
neither one is sufficient.
Right.
Um, and so that's where so many of our voters, especially young voters, just check out because they don't fit with either one.
And they
And
don't see Democratic Socialists as a party. They don't see the family. I mean, there's new parties popping up, but
yeah,
they're not money backed. They're not
right,
hugely money backed.
right. And this is where again, I have great respect for Bernie Sanders, but I think and Mondami,
Yes,
New
Madame in New
York.
York. Sure.
Um, but I think where they by referring to themselves as socialists or democratic socialists, that makes them a three-headed monster.
Right. It's a
The
scary
minds of
word.
too many,
That's
yeah.
a, yeah.
That even if you were to um, just listen to what someone like Mondami is saying and what Bernie Sanders is saying,
Mhm.
they go, yes, that makes sense. I like that.
Right.
Um, Add the socialist to their designation, and yeah,
Yeah. Godzilla's coming.
they
Yeah.
run screaming from the room.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, I've had this conversation with other people, and they they act like it's just semantics when it's not. It's we need to keep the focus on this is authoritarian capitalism versus democratic capitalism. Those are the sides we pick.
Right.
Okay. And um, when you just keep it as if capitalism is this monolithic entity, then again, just like labeling fascism is empowers it, well, then
Mhm.
that empowers authoritarian capitalism
Right.
and makes it more difficult for democratic capitalism to emerge. Um, and so the idea, I mean, there are a lot of ideas out there that are neither good nor bad.
Right.
We're the ones who make it good. We're the ones who make it bad
Right.
by by the decisions we make, the choices we make. And so um, capitalism can be great if it actually serves the interests of the majority. And by that, I would mean universal health care.
Sure.
Uh,
Education that
yes,
doesn't suddenly
universal
disappear.
education.
Yeah.
And the things that we all need, no matter what your political background or other political interests may be. We
Mhm.
all need roads. We all need education. Okay.
Infrastructure,
We all need
education, health.
healthcare.
Yep.
Um, these are things that we cannot, as humans, function without.
Right.
And
We don't need a 10-year political campaign against women's bodies. We don't need a 10-year political campaign saying, oh, yes, we're going to do this ABC thing and make new airlines or make new train things and then have it all,
yeah,
crushed down. Every single politician I ever met, his first words out of their mouth to me are veterans and education. And those are
right.
the last things you ever hear from until it's time to re-up and sign up to be running again.
Yeah. And it's just uh,
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
um it's like
That's the correct answer.
yeah,
Ugh.
it's like again, let the difference between you and me be that you drive a Maserati, I drive a Honda Civic.
Right. We're still on a
You
road. The
live,
road needs to
yeah,
be shared.
right. You live in a house with 10 bedrooms. I live in a house with 3 bedrooms. Let
Right.
that be the difference between you and me.
Right.
We cannot continue if the difference is you can take care of your child when they're sick and I can't.
Right. You can have
That
this
is not
entire
acceptable.
city set aside and
Yeah,
swept of people that we disagree with, like the homeless, or how dare we have Mexicans in our town?
yeah.
Like, oh, yeah,
I mean, and the reality is for, again, I think the way that I think this is just human nature. If we could do things like take care of our children when they're sick, take care of ourselves when we're sick, we're fine with the Honda Civic.
yeah,
We're fine with
exactly.
the 3 bedroom house.
I can go
Okay.
anywhere I want. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. My freedoms have not been stopped. They're
Yeah.
just not as pretty as yours. That's all.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and again, the problem is when you are focusing on a political system consumed by money, dominated by money,
Yeah.
then this conversation is never going to happen.
Right.
And um, Re-electing Bernie Sanders, re-electing AOC, as great as
Maxwell
good as that is,
Frost. Yeah.
as much as and it does serve a purpose, it's
Mhm.
not going to change. It's not going to result in the change that is necessary for our democracy to grow.
Yeah.
We have outgrown a two-party system. It is
Hugely.
on us. We're now wearing it like a straitjacket,
The
and
diversity we have in this country is everywhere. I mean, I remember growing up in a country where people were, oh, you're European or you're African, whatever. Now it's like melting pot, melting pot, melting pot, no matter where you go in the world.
yeah.
European is now African European, everything's mixed and blended. We can't be this binary world anymore. It just does not exist.
Right. And
Not
because
that it
we,
existed then, but
yeah, and because we only have the two parties to choose from, it does not allow for us to truly respect the differences
yes,
that others have. Um, Let there be just a party that focuses on um, an issue like Gaza.
right,
Let there be an entire political party.
right.
And
Uh,
if that becomes enough to get them to rally, to pay attention, and to vote and to participate and function within our democracy, that helps.
yeah.
Okay. But then when it's time to come together and create a government, well, then everyone will have to sit down with each other. And this is where the recognition of the differences and the respecting of the differences will come into play
It's like
as
the
we
United
begin to actually
Nations.
build a
Yeah.
government.
It could have been the United Nations as the specific country, United States, literally
Yeah.
the United States, and instead it's just become the untied states.
Yeah.
Oh.
And again, the Constitution, when I would encourage everyone to read the Constitution, there are actually very few SAT words.
And yes, and you can get a copy for free if you go to the government's website. You can get
Yes.
one downloaded, and you can have one in your pocket.
Yeah. And people listening to this may be surprised to hear nowhere in the Constitution does it say man or men. It doesn't say women. At no point does it doesn't mention white, black,
Mhm.
nothing. The only word that is operative in that context is person.
Yep. People in person.
And
Yep.
again, no matter what your ethnicity, no matter what your skin color, no matter what your gender,
Hmm.
your sexual orientation, you are
Nationality
a
doesn't point.
nationality, you are
Yep.
a person.
Hmm.
And that's what, again, is what really is keeping the door open for us to get out of the mess we're in.
Yeah.
And we've got to recognize that because if, as some people insist, the problem is in our constitutional system, then it's something we really can't fix.
And
It
it's the
creates,
it just as people who believe into the Bible believe that their interpretations of their Bible is this ABC. The same thing with the constitutionalists, the federalists who believe, are the originalists who believe, well, the Constitution says ABC. Well, that's great, but the Constitution was made to be amended.
exactly.
It's a growing document. It's not a, end all be all. And that was the point of the Constitution.
Exactly. And because again, they would if they didn't expect it to change, they wouldn't have put in a mechanism for changing it through
Hmm.
the amendment process.
Hmm.
So they clearly were recognizing the situation as it existed in 1787 when they wrote it was not going to be the situation for the indefinite future.
Yeah, they weren't doing the Salem witch trials when they were writing the Constitution.
No,
Yeah.
no. And so um, the Constitution builds into the our system revolution
Mhm.
by having frequent elections. Through frequent elections and the way our election system is set up under the Constitution, every 4 years, we could literally overthrow the existing government and create an entirely new one
It's an etch a
without
sketch
spilling.
world.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, we can do that every 4 years without spilling a drop of blood. All we have to do is show up and vote.
And listen.
Um, and what is also then something that needs to be understood is that it also builds into our system the possibility of a civil war to be fought non-violently.
Mhm. The
I
word
argue that
civil being civil instead of civil.
the Confederacy short-circuited the system when they seceded from the Union back in
Right.
1861. But I see us again, as we live through these things, it's hard to say with any certainty what is actually happening. We'll need some historical perspective
Yeah,
to,
it's hard to do the 2020 hindsight when you're still in the middle of the forest,
right.
watching the forest
But
fire.
I'm willing to con consider that we're in the midst of a civil war. You hear a
Mhm.
lot of people talking about the civil war is coming
Right. I said the
or
same thing
heading
just a
toward.
few days ago. I said, "Oh, there's another shot in the Civil War." And somebody said to me, I was overreacting. I'm like, no,
No.
it's
Um,
there.
the battle lines are the congressional district lines. And by through gerrymandering, they're basically building their army by saying, okay, we're putting all of these people into this district so they no longer have as much political influence as they once had when they were in that district.
What is
And
it that you interpret, or how do you interpret something like ICE?
yeah,
As is it a mandated militia? Is it a? I mean, how do you? We had a lawyer on an ICE immigration lawyer who talked a little bit about that. But as a constitutional expert, how do you explain to somebody what that is legally? I mean, as far as our history goes.
um, as long as they're not acting on a warrant issued by a court, issued by a judge,
Mhm.
whether that's an arrest warrant, then they're not operating legally as
That's
far
what I
as
thought.
I mean, because um, our guarantee of due process
Right,
applies to all persons living within the jurisdiction of the United States,
right.
and it is not and cannot be parsed by saying, "Oh, if you're here as an undocumented immigrant, you're not guaranteed due process."
Which
It
is
does
so
not say that.
That's
Okay.
it, yeah, that's the head in the glass banging to me because it's
Yeah.
just insane that even got just laughed at by people like Christy Nome and Holman and these
Yeah.
people.
And I mean, because if you allow it for undocumented immigrants, you're allowing it for all of us.
Right.
Um,
There is no the next guy. You are the next guy.
yeah. I mean, if they can arrest an undocumented immigrant without a warrant,
Hmm.
and then if I or someone else on the street were to confront them and try to stop them, then they
You're
can arrest
next.
me without a warrant.
And they've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why we can't allow that kind of parsing in the way our Constitution works. It's not written that way. And it's clear that when they wrote things like when the members of Congress who wrote the 14th Amendment, it was clear that they were including all races,
Right.
all ethnicities, immigrants, and everyone else coming into this country in the mid 1800s.
And a lot of people
Um,
forget that almost every single person who wrote or signed the Declaration of Independence were all immigrants, or
yeah,
at least children of immigrants,
right.
first generation.
Yeah. And I mean, I think if we can get focused back on the Constitution and really work toward these solutions, there is some hope. I worry that our
It's
we've
so
got
muddy.
we've got several generations that are just not prepared um, to understand how much power they have.
Right.
They have been conditioned and convinced that they have no power, and so they stay passive.
Eh,
And the fewer voters that show up to the polls, the authoritarians win.
yeah.
And
It really frustrates me when somebody in a celebrity sphere says things like, well, my vote doesn't matter. You are somebody with that much clout vocally. The
mhm,
people know who you are or what you think or how you believe or whatever, whether you're a libertarian or a Democrat or Republican or, bondage, sex fiend, whatever you had
yeah,
party you're part of. Um, there's my comedy for today. Uh, having that ability to be that person to say something and then say my vote doesn't matter and you're in the public sphere to me is the most irresponsible thing that can be said
yeah,
because you're saying you don't matter as a human being, I don't matter as a human being, and all of this is already predetermined by the people with the money.
yeah. I mean, the money can't again stop us from voting.
Yeah.
You
No
can,
matter what, look what happened to Elon Musk.
yeah. I mean, and it's like when you think about a couple of record midterm elections, 2018, for example, and that was when we had a phenomenal change in terms of Congress in the midst of the first Trump term.
Mhm.
I believe it was something along the lines of 30 to 35% of the 18 to 30-year-old voters turned out in that
Yeah,
2018 election,
huge.
and they made a huge difference.
Hmm.
And imagine if 50% turned out, maybe 60, 70% of them turned out.
Right.
They win if they simply make sure that they show up and vote.
And they give themselves the power. They give themselves the recognition that they already have the power.
Yeah. And um, the things that need to be done are like make issues like the winner take all allocation a
Mhm.
state legislative issue. And
Mhm.
and as a voter, when you are shopping for a state legislator, focus on politicians and getting those who will run for office who will get rid of the winner take all allocation.
And I will link below. We did talk a lot about the Electoral College the last time we spoke, because it was completely. I mean, I was still completely blindsided about that election that we had just a few months before. Um, and I'll make sure that people do check that out. Okay, so it was a wonderful conversation about the Electoral College.
Yeah,
When you have your students coming up to you today, when there's an event like the Charlie Kirk, and who knows what's going to happen between now and when we air this, which who knows, given the the draw of Epstein files or the draw of whatever the new war they're trying to plan right now in the Middle East, so somebody can get a hotel somewhere. Um, what do your students do when they come up to you? Do they just like come to your class just to I mean, what is
Um, they do pay attention, and I do see some of the students really perk up when I talk about how much power they have and how our constitutional system. Just this past week, I was talking about how our Constitution allows for every 2 years a significant change in the government. Every 4 years, a literal overthrow of a government is possible.
right?
Um, but again, it can only happen if we vote.
And there's also a really big push right now with some of the grassroots newer parties like the New Working Family Party and things of that nature, where they're trying to get people to run for offices
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be seen, even if they're not going to be the big money party, they'll at least be seen and be out there. And maybe people will go, that's different enough. And that seems to speak enough to me where I will pay attention to this.
yeah. And someone else has already used this phrase, but I really think that um, I would encourage, if they were to ever pay attention to me, men like Robert Reich, um, start a Project 2028
Yeah,
and just mimic Project 2025, but make the kind of agenda that um, needs to be done, including what constitutional amendments we need to do
yeah.
that we now need to we never would have thought before that we
It's
need to
even
have.
well, we had an emoluments clause, and look what's going on. We've
Yeah,
got, you know,
we need to back that up with now some real teeth.
yeah. It,
Um,
it can't
we
just be, oh, that's too bad.
yeah because again that's the one thing that the framers never anticipated, that we would just have people in power just blatantly ignore the
Completely be the
Constitution.
Mad King.
Yeah,
There's so many Mad Kings right now. There's
yeah.
just a pile of them.
Um, and so
And Stephen King is shadow president. Hello. I mean, Stephen Miller. I said
yeah,
Stephen
Stephen
King. Yeah,
Miller.
again, Freudian.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen Miller is
Um,
the shadow president.
and so again, I just um, yeah, I always find myself going back and forth between being very, very optimistic about the chances of us of turning things around in the future, and just wanting to crawl into a cave
Yeah.
and stay there.
I am one of the many
Um,
people has been looking at our family genetics going, okay, I can now get two citizenships, one in Ireland and one in Italy, and let's see which one I pick. And,
yeah. But again, I sometimes wish I could have 9 million students in my classes, um, and just talk to them all at once, about what is going on. Um, because we have such a unique system. And again, as limited as our democracy has been, those limitations are not put on our democracy in the Constitution.
right.
Those those limitations were imposed by voters, and voters who imposed those limitations at one point in our history, new voters can remove those limitations. And
Excellent.
that's what we need to get as many people as possible to focus on.
The
Don't give up. Don't let yourself
Be
become so
beaten down.
cynical
Yeah.
that you concede defeat, because that's what you're doing.
The biggest issue that I saw through the emails that came through, again, a lot of people asked the similar questions that we're talking about today. One of them was, and this was before the Sotomayor dissent from the other day. Supreme Court, where does it really stand in as far as the equal uh, branch of government? Is there such a thing anymore?
Well, again, in the original design, it was intended to be a co-equal branch.
Mhm.
The idea that theoretically, Congress can pass a blatantly unconstitutional law
Mhm.
as long as they've got a president who is willing to sign that law sign that law
Mhm.
and enforce it. But then the courts can overturn that law by saying, no, that's unconstitutional.
Right.
Okay. And then that would end the law right there. But again, the court, it always, at least the way it's worked out through most of our history, in the opinions, the court makes it clear what Congress can do to make the law constitutional.
Mhm.
Okay, they can
Yep.
say that as written, this is unconstitutional.
Mhm.
But it's part of their duty to also then say, and here's how you can make it constitutional if you choose. But
Sotomayor said something interesting the other night on the Stephen Colbert show. She had said that there's nothing in their rules that says they have to give a reason for their decisions. Is that true, or is that?
again, the Constitution was not the weakest element of the Constitution is dealing with the judicial branch. It
Mm,
essentially says there will be a federal judicial branch, there will be a Supreme Court, but clearly they did not have time to design the
what
full
those?
scope of that court within the period that they were writing the Constitution.
Mhm.
One of the first major pieces of legislation passed by Congress is the Federal Judiciary Act of 1789. And that is what gave Article 3 the substance
Ah,
that it lacked in the original, that it lacks in the original document. Um, again, I've never seen this written down, but I've often been struck by the fact that whenever the Constitution was originally written, it seemed that the number of Supreme Court justices who were on the bench mirrored how many appellate districts.
yeah, I was wondering
So,
that. That was my
so,
next thing. Okay, good.
and so the idea is that originally when there were six appellate districts, there were six Supreme Court justices.
Hmm.
Um, by the time we get to the Civil War, there are nine appellate districts and nine Supreme Court justices.
Hmm.
But in the aftermath of the Civil War, Congress just arbitrarily decided, okay, let's keep it at nine.
Which makes zero sense at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
there are now
you shouldn't
12.
have to have a tiebreaker in the Supreme Court. That's the
Right.
other thing that makes me insane.
Yeah. And I think that I mean, right now we have 12 appellate districts.
Hmm.
So to me, I mean, there is an argument to be made, and I would support keeping an odd number.
Hmm.
So make it either 11 Supreme Court justices or 13.
Right.
So that way there isn't going to be a tie.
And there won't be a
Um,
majority of one to the other
right.
necessarily. Yeah.
And I think that if you just look at the way the court has evolved,
Hmm.
there's an argument there for us extending the number of Supreme Court justices.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And we need to explore that. I would love, I know Mark Elias has got a lot on his plate with his court cases,
Right. Is he
but
doing the democracy docket too, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I would love to see some kind of elections lawyer challenge the winner take all allocation
Yeah.
because I firmly believe there is a substantial argument that the winner take all allocation violates the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. Because what it is effectively saying that if you are, and like, and I mentioned this last time,
Mhm.
if you are a Republican in California, your vote doesn't count.
Which is pathetic. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like if you're a Democrat in Texas, your vote doesn't count. And so the idea then is that the reason that is not because of it's only because of the winner take all allocation in
Right.
Texas and the winner take all allocation in California. And so, in other words, as I read a very effective argument, I'm being punished for not being part of the majority in my state, just like a Republican in California could arguably say that they are being punished because they don't agree with the Democratic majority.
Hmm.
So, in a sense, we're being punished because of our political identification, our political affiliation.
And it's not as easy as let's move to a different place where there's more, because the world
Yeah,
doesn't work that way.
right. Because every state has winner take all except for Maine and Nebraska.
Hmm.
And if we did get rid of the winner take all allocation, that would automatically open up the door for multiple parties.
And you think somebody like Mark Elias or Bob Corn Revere or somebody like that would be the one to change that
I,
law?
they would be the ones who would have the intellectual power to really go at that kind of argument, more so than I do, because I'm not a constitutional lawyer.
Right. Just an
So
expert. Just an
yeah,
expert.
but um, if we did get rid of that winner take all allocation, I think that would have the potential of, well, it would immediately open up the door for multiple parties
Yeah.
because you would then you would get, even if you only received 4% of the popular vote, you
Hmm.
would still get 4%
Right.
of the electoral vote,
Right.
which
And
then would give you a bargaining chip at the table to where another coalition may need your four electoral votes to make a majority government. So
right.
then you have to be you will, like I said, you'll be have to be respected and recognized, even though you have just a small portion of the vote. It
Yeah.
doesn't give you the win. It doesn't give you control,
Right.
but it gives you the opportunity and the ability to make a difference, which is what empowers us.
Hmm.
Um, Madison, James Madison was no small timer when it came to intelligence. He
Hmm.
was not afraid of multiple parties. He that's what he wanted. He lays it out in Federalist number 10
Hmm.
because that way nobody would have complete control. No one group could gain complete control. He
And he
called
was one
that,
of the original Federalists, and yet the Federalists that we know today have seemed to completely turn their backs on,
yeah, yeah. Um, and so again, Madison saw a multi-party democracy as the healthiest kind of democracy.
right.
Because right now you can pretty much guarantee right now it's going to be the Republicans win the majority again or the Democrats will win the majority
Hmm.
because those are the only two who get to play. So it's got to be one of them.
Yeah.
Um, and neither one is living up to the moment, at least at the leadership level.
And I
Um,
think also the Democrats I voted independent most of my life, and whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever really didn't matter to me. Who you were as a person always mattered to me.
yeah,
Um, until the last 10 years, and then I was like, okay, now I see where the crazy's coming from. Um, when I look at this and I find myself as somebody who's been devoutly independent, uh, it just breaks my heart that I can't hear the people that are in the Democratic Party that should start their own branch of the party, whether, aren't doing it because they do have to have that money that's part of that two-party system.
yeah. And also because of the winner take all allocation, what's the point?
Yeah.
They're not going to, it's just going to become a waste of time.
I would jump up
And-
and down to be in a progressive party if there was a progressive party.
But again, and that could have very well happened if we did have if we got rid of the winner take all allocation.
Right.
Um, and I also think that that would have a corollary effect of getting rid of a lot of the money, because what makes politics a good investment, an easy investment for a lot of wealthy people,
Mhm.
is there's only two people who can possibly win.
Right.
And so no matter where you put your money, 50-50, you're going to win.
That's it.
Good
That's it.
odds.
Yep.
Okay. But if you suddenly had 10 parties,
Yeah.
even if you end up putting your money in this party, these little parties may be able to come together and make enough of a difference to where that goes away. That is all undermined. And so that would completely change the dynamic of, I think, wealthy donors even
Mhm.
considering money and giving money to political parties as a worthwhile venture.
Right. They
It's
could
no longer so
keep it
easily
into, if they
controlled.
want to support businesses, that's wonderful. That's great. You want to support a small mom and pop business or 10 mom and pop businesses? Yay. You
Yeah.
want to run your own Walmart? Yay. That's great. But when
And
Walmart becomes the United States of Walmart,
yeah,
not so yay.
no.
Yeah.
But and the other thing is that again, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but um, when originally when we had two parties, you and I would have never been a member of the political party.
Right.
The politicians pick a party because that gave them the way to tap into a larger organization,
Hmm.
tap into a way to coordinate at the state and federal level. Um, and so it was only important if you were a politician for you to align yourself with a political party.
Hmm.
Then, when it came time to get my vote or your vote, we would be reading their platform and looking and saying, "Oh, well, this platform works for me. I'm going to
Yeah.
vote for this. I'm going to vote for a candidate from this party."
Right.
Um, and again, that may change from what election to election.
Yeah. One year we
And
might have the farmers unions or
right,
yeah.
right. So then, um, what I think undermines our democracy is we create this environment in where we pick a team,
Yeah.
and
Team
then
sports in politics is horrendous.
right, and then it's like we make excuses for our team,
Hmm.
even when they screw up, because
Hmm.
they're our team, you know.
What,
And
why do you think there's this team mentality is beholding to a single uh, icon, for lack of a better term?
well, I think what has allowed it to happen is the mass communication, because it with going back to the advent of just television, you could take millions of people from all across the country and they could have a shared experience. Um, and that's not going to go away.
Right,
What we need to do is we need to get to, for the ideal would be for us to get back to that independent frame of mind and for more of us to say, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I will vote for my interest.
right.
I'm not going to vote for their interest. I'm going to vote for my interest. And if we can actually get to that mindset, get enough people to that mindset, then that's when we can have a real revolution that's not violent. That's
Yeah. The word
just
revolution doesn't have
embedded
to
in
mean
the process.
musket balls. Yeah.
So again, I think that, and I think this is just part of understanding our history and our role within our democracy, and that when we teach, when we only require, like in Texas right now, you're required one semester of government in high school, one semester of government in college, and that's it. That's 30.
And then what that government consists of, are you being told what you can and can't say yet, or has that come to that point yet?
Yet that isn't that they just cover the structure and the framework in a
Mhm.
30 weeks out of your entire educational experience.
Mm.
And that
You
is
learn more to become a
enough.
citizen.
Yeah, yeah. And and again, there is a vested interest in keeping us ignorant.
Hmm.
Um,
Hey,
because
what's
again,
going on with the family? Is it the Price family that's up in Michigan? What's that education program that they're requiring schools to run now as kind of state media in the classrooms?
yeah, Prager University.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's again, that is such flawed history. It's just, I mean, I
black
can't.
people
It's
apparently don't
laughable.
exist.
Yeah,
But
it's laughable that people would treat this actually as something that's worthy of a classroom. It's propaganda.
yeah,
It's nothing but propaganda.
and
And
and so blatantly skewed to the white, it's
yeah,
just scarily so.
yes,
Um,
yes. And this whole idea that college professors have this powerful ability to indoctrinate. It's
yeah.
like it's like it's like we all have this joke. I can't even make them read the syllabus, you know?
As a
Um,
former college professor, I can
yeah,
attest.
I
I did.
mean,
The cult following was not there.
yeah. And those of us who have integrity, I mean, I've always had students who would swear on a stack of Bibles that I'm politically liberal. But then I'd have another group of students who would swear on a stack of Bibles that I'm a conservative. And when I think of that, then I think I must be doing something right
Yeah, because
because
they shouldn't have
what
to.
I'm teaching them, I'm not even letting them know my positions
Right.
because that's not relevant to the discussion.
Exactly. It's their education, not yours.
Yeah,
The point
and
is you're teaching them different options they can learn about and different things they can understand and how they choose to interpret that and use the critical thinking skills that they should be having.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've actually had students come up to me and, during my office hours and ask, "Who should I vote for?" And a part of me wants to scream the answer.
The other
But
part is you.
my
Where who?
answer is that's not my question. It's not my place to answer that question.
Right. I am not
But
you.
I will talk to them and try to get them, ask them questions about what they think,
Hmm.
trying to get them to confront their opinions on the subject. And I said, use that information to inform your choice.
Now this is good because one of the last conversations I had yesterday about this whole Charlie Kirk experience, Captain Kirk, as somebody said
Yeah,
ridiculously. This the idea of an indoctrination education. It's education. The word education is the key part of that phrase.
yeah,
You know, when you indoctrinate somebody, you're saying what? You want to be somebody who has more awareness of the world around you. Ooh, scary.
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
get that.
I mean, there is a book that was very popular on the conservative right for a long time called The Patriots' History of the United States.
Oh yes.
It was the counter to the People's History, Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States.
Hmm.
And I used for a period of time, I used both the Patriots' History and the People's History, and I
Hmm.
have the students compare the two.
Yeah, I was gonna say good
Um,
comparative literature.
yeah, and I remember at one point. Um, I invited one of the authors of A Patriot's History to visit HCC's campus, and he accepted the invitation.
Hmm.
But as soon as he accepted the invitation, he said, "I'm not going to talk about A Patriot's History." He wanted to talk about a project he's been working on regarding the history of rock and roll, but he did not want to talk about A Patriot's History. And I, again, because I wanted to talk to him in front of my students about how much they wrote that makes absolutely no sense.
Mm.
Is just how they contradict themselves. And the only thing I could conclude is that he knew they contradicted themselves.
Oh
That
yeah,
they
he
weren't
absolutely did not want
writing
to be put
this.
on the spot for that. Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
and so they weren't writing this as a legitimate history. They were writing it for a paycheck.
Hmm. The
And
entertainment value, except this one doesn't have Elvis Presley in it.
yeah, and this was back when Glenn Beck was still a thing on Fox News.
Mm.
When I was talking to him at one point, he said, "Yeah, Glenn Beck picked up this book and waved it in front of the camera and said, 'You got to buy it.'" He said, "I sold 40,000 copies in the next 3 days."
That's indoctrination.
Yeah.
That's what
And
indoctrination is.
yeah. And he said, When I got the royalty check, he said, I bought a brand new Cadillac. And he said, I named it Glenn.
Oh God. Ugh.
And it's like, I was driving at the time a 1999 Frontier,
Mhm.
Nissan Frontier with crack all the way across the windshield.
That's
The
what we have
the
right now.
roof was sagging and always hitting my head.
Uh-huh.
The, and I'm like, I could
Please.
do that. I could do that and get a new Cadillac. But no, I can't do that.
Because you
I
have
can't
integrity.
sacrifice my integrity like that for money.
Ethics and
Um,
integrity, that's crazy talk.
yeah. Um, but it's like these are it's like we hear it mostly with Trump, but it's got a longer history than Trump. Every accusation is a confession.
Right.
They
And
accuse
it's so
they
true.
the right accuses the left of indoctrination. They're the
Mhm.
ones. because that's what they do is they use their claim that the left is indoctrinating students to justify their indoctrination.
And the other reality is you only recognize in others what you see in yourself. And since they don't recognize the other person as a person, they just throw out the stuff they see in themselves. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what I see.
And again, the human mind takes a long time to get up to speed.
Yeah,
It's not something that just happens quickly. And a lot of what I teach my students in my class, I would not want taught in junior high or high school
right.
because you've got to have a level of maturity to recognize the world is not black or white, it's
Yeah,
gray.
you have to sort out those puzzle pieces before you know where the.
Yeah. And you have to understand that sometimes, we learn mostly from the mistakes that have been made.
Mhm,
And if we focus on the mistakes and condemn the mistakes like a pre-adolescent, where
mhm,
it's all good or bad, then we can't progress.
right.
Um,
And sadly, as somebody who worked in the armed services, hearing my fellow veterans say we fought fascism, hearing 90-year-old veterans say we fought fascism, why are we bringing it here?
yeah, yeah.
It kills
And
me.
you know, I can remember my stepfather was a veteran of World War II, Korea. He was still in the military when Vietnam, so he's considered a Vietnam era
Hmm.
veteran as well, but he never went to Vietnam. Um, and I can remember this idea of when you're too young to understand the nuances of good or bad. I
Hmm.
was watching a war documentary with him, and my niece, his granddaughter, jumps up into his lap, and she's just watching it with us. And then she looked up at my stepfather, and said, "Grandpa, did you ever kill anybody?" And I mean, he just went pale as a ghost, and is like, he 8 years old. She's of the mind killing is bad.
Yeah,
Where
she
grandfather
doesn't.
killed somebody, then he's bad.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just, I'm like, okay, how you going to answer that?
Yeah, good
Because,
luck.
it's like, but my mother saved the day by just calling out her name and saying, "Here, have a cookie."
I was going to say, was there a cookie involved? Yeah,
Yeah.
please tell me there was a cookie involved.
And
Oh
so
my
she
goodness.
disappeared and grabbed the cookie and never thought about the question again. But um, again, so there's a way to teach a lot of history
Hmm.
that kind of helps us understand the history. But then when we get to that point of a higher level of maturity, begin to delve more deeply into the moral aspects of
Yeah,
what's going on and the judgmental aspects when um, again, you just have that greater maturity, that greater sophistication um, to recognize what's going on,
yeah,
and just not castigate it as either all good or all bad. Um,
fact.
and so that's just a false dichotomy. Um, because
That-
again, it's like you've heard the saying in various ways. Back in the 18th century, one man's pirate is another man's hero.
That's true.
Today, it would be one man's terrorist is another man's hero.
That's true. Yeah,
And so it's like you can't just say it's all good or bad. You've got
right.
to understand the
Nuance is
nuances.
part of the whole communication. Uh,
Yeah,
well, Dr. Kent McGaughy, you are always one of my favorite guests, and our hour has zipped so fast by.
really.
It has zipped
Didn't
by.
even realize.
I know. I just got the flash from the clock, but I wanted to invite you back again because I know everybody loves watching you. You're one of our most popular guests on the show. Thank you so much for talking about this, especially during this very weird time in history that we are part of right now.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to have you back again. Do you have any final comments for the people that are watching?
Vote, vote. I would say vote again, but that's illegal. Um,
And don't get your dog to vote, as that gal in Orange County tried to.
yeah.
Oh,
But seriously, don't despair. Um, we if we despair, then we lose.
Yeah.
If we don't vote, we're conceding defeat. Um, a lot of times you don't necessarily like the choices, but
Hmm.
you still have to make a choice
It's a four-letter
because,
action word.
yeah, yeah. So then you can, because again, as long as our democracy survives and as and we can get through this, then we can come back and make the changes that need to be made.
So it never happens again.
Right, right. And so we can't give up
Right.
on this. It's still a viable system. It
Yep.
hasn't failed. It's
Giving up is surrendering. That's true.
yes,
All right, then. This has been Kathy B for the Antisocial Hour-ish show with our wonderful guest, Dr. Kent McGaughy, who I will put all his links down below as I did last time, and we'll link the previous chat we had if you enjoyed this one. And
yeah,
do come back next week. We have Wendy Liebman, the comedian, who will help cheer us up in this crazy time. And
okay.
thank you very much, everybody, for watching this week.